Hey, it's me, MLB. Here's the prologue for the story Pinpoint. I originally wrote this one-shot as just a simple one-shot, and then I liked it so much that I used it as a basis for the story of Pinpoint, so I hope you enjoy it. Here is Origin's prologue to Pinpoint, Shoto Todoroki, ex-female listener. He slowly wandered from store to store, aimlessly casting his eyes over the items before him. He wasn't really looking for anything in particular, just browsing. Being the weekend, he wore a casual outfit, but it looked far from average, as you'd expect from the youngest son of Endeavour, and as you probably suspected, his presence brought all of the surrounding eyes to himself as well, with his facial features being quietly fawned over by any girl who looked in his direction. He was keenly aware of the attention he was receiving, but opted to ignore his adoring fans as he moved silently to the next stall. The markets were a hive of activity today. Everyone was out and about. There was a hum of excitement as families spent the day together buying things and having fun. He watched as some young parents held up baby clothes to their newborn, cooing over how it looked on the chubby little one. As usual, he remained expressionless, but inside his heart warmed a bit. Noiselessly, he moved to the next setup. There was an elderly woman selling hairpins, and he browsed through them, picking up a few to examine them. "Looking for anything in particular, dear?" the kindly old woman asked. "No, ma'am, just browsing," he replied gently, keeping his eyes on the gleaming adornments. She smiled and nodded, and he reached out and touched one delicately. His mother loved wearing hairpins. Her favourite one was a turquoise blue colour with red flecks in it. It was a very unique hairpin. She said she liked it because it reminded her of him, of his turquoise left eye and the red hair on that side to match. He missed his mother, her calming voice, her gentle smile and warm embrace. She didn't have that hairpin anymore. His father had melted it with his quirk the day that she poured boiling water over him. He shuddered as the memories came flooding back, the bark of his father as his mother screamed and cried over what she'd done. He was almost about to leave the stall when a soft voice beside him made him stop. How much for this hairpin?" the voice asked the shopkeeper. It was a beautiful voice, full of love and compassion. He glanced to his right and froze. The owner of the voice was wearing a hairpin, a turquoise blue with red flecks in it hairpin. The owner of the voice was also you. Shoto's eyes widened in astonishment. He stood transfixed, heart pounding, while you and the hairpin shop owner exchanged a few words. "Do you have this in any other style?" you asked the elderly lady. She shook her head sadly. "I'm sorry, dear, this is the only colour we have left," she said apologetically. "Oh," you said sadly. "That's okay, thank you." You were about to leave when you felt like someone was looking at you, and you looked to your right, your soft eyes meeting two mismatched ones. They were mesmerising eyes. You couldn't look away, and as it appeared, neither could he. You both stood there gazing at each other. "Excuse me, miss, what's your name?" Shoto asked you. "Yin," you replied softly, still staring into his eyes. "That's a pretty name," he said in a low voice, still captivated by your gaze. You blushed and blinked to break the gaze. "Thank you," you said quietly. "Where did you get that pretty hairpin?" he asked again, tilting his head slightly to try and make eye contact with you again. My father gave it to me before he died," you said softly, the words bringing back painful memories as they rolled off your tongue. Instinctively you cleared your throat and bit back tears. "I'm sorry," Shoto said, looking a little concerned that he had caused you to recall an unsettling event. "My mother used to have the same one," he added, his own mind drawing forth a mixture of pleasant and horrifying images. You both stood silently for a minute, lost in your own respective thoughts. After a few seconds of silence you bowed as if to excuse yourself, but he reached a hand out to stop you. "Yin, would you mind me accompanying you today?" he asked gently, wanting to spend a little more time with you. You nodded slowly and then turned, while he walked with you to the next stall. "If you don't mind me asking, where did your father get the hairpin from? It's very unique. I've never seen another one until now." He gestured towards it, coming close to touching it but refraining. He made it." "He was a skilled man," Shoto said, admiring it. It was made by his quirk," you clarified. "He had a precious stone quirk. He He could make different types of precious stones just from the tone in his voice as he spoke. Fascinating, Shoto mused. I have the same quirk, but I need to sing to be able to use it. You gave him a reserved smile. My stones aren't very beautiful, though. I find that hard to believe, Shoto said, cocking his head in disbelief. A beautiful girl like you, not being able to make beautiful stones by singing? He gazed fondly at you. Oh, you giggled bashfully, not quite knowing what to say to such a compliment. So you continued walking in silence for a bit, his hand brushing yours a few times. As you walked, you started to hum a small tune. Shoto turned his head and stared at you in awe as a small cloud formed in front of your mouth and you started to sing a little louder. Eventually a small iridescent orange stone formed and fell to your hand. You handed it across to Shoto. Keep this until we meet again, you said, placing it gently in his palm. Shoto looked down, admiring the pretty little stone. What do you mean, until we meet again? He looked up. You were gone. He looked around wildly, but you'd vanished. He looked back down at the stone again, rolling it over and smiling sadly to himself. Until we meet again, he uttered to himself. And that's the end. So that's the origin of them meeting. This was written way back in 2019, so I had to very heavily edit it, but I hope you enjoyed it.